Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I recently just posted my IVF journey. If you haven't seen that, I would suggest you watch that video before this one. I already uploaded that, so make sure to watch that. In that video, I was originally planning on sharing questions that I had a lot of you ask over on Instagram, but I figured that video was going to be really long, so I was just going to do the Q&A in a separate video, and that's what I'm going to be sharing today. I'm going to be answering all of the questions that you guys may have asked me all about IVF. I had quite a few questions that asked if I was scared to do IVF. Yes, I was very scared. Originally, when I used to hear IVF, I used to think women typically have more than one child, so twins, triplets, and etc. While I was talking to the nurse that had suggested we get on the IVF waiting list, she's the one who let me know that IUIs, which is what we were doing at the time, gave me a much higher chance in conceiving multiples rather than IVF. IVF, if you transfer one embryo, you most likely will end up having one baby, unless that embryo splits into two, which I'm not sure how that works. But in this case, if I only wanted to conceive one baby, I would only have to transfer one embryo. IUIs, the way I did it, I'm not sure if there's different cases, but I was on Femera, and that is a medication that makes you grow more than one follicle. So normally when you ovulate monthly, you release one egg typically. And Femera was helping me release more than one egg, meaning I would have a higher chance in conceiving and getting pregnant, but also giving me a much higher chance in conceiving more than one baby. And I don't know how I didn't put two and two together, but yeah. Long story short, I was scared of IVF because of that, and obviously because of all the injections. I heard a lot of mixed things about hormone medications. They're not good for you to put that in your body and whatnot, but everybody has their own opinion. But yes, I was scared to start IVF. I had a lot of family related questions. So one of them is, did you share your journey with your friends and family? We didn't share our plans with many people. We only shared it with a very small select few family members and friends. I didn't want too many people knowing, just because it's nobody's business but our own. So we only confided in those who we truly trusted and knew that they would be very understanding with our journey. Another question is if I was scared telling people that I was going to be doing IVF. I don't think I was. I don't really remember, but I don't think I was, because I'm the type of person that I don't care what people think of me. I don't care if people are spreading false information about me, because at the end of the day, I know what's true and that's all that matters. And me doing IVF shouldn't be anybody else's business but mine and Rudy's. So if somebody was going to be judgmental on that part, which leads me to my next question, was somebody asked if I was afraid of people judging me in regards to doing IVF, and no, I wasn't, only because, again, that's nobody's business but mine and Rudy's. We were the ones who were trying to conceive. We were the ones trying to have a child, trying to create a family. Nobody else is involved in that but myself and Rudy. So I wasn't afraid people were going to judge me, and I wasn't scared telling people, because I only told people that I 100% trusted and knew was going to be by my side, supporting me, backing me up. One good question was if my periods were irregular. I know that having irregular periods can be a factor in why it's difficult for somebody to conceive. No, I did not have irregular periods. Since my first period ever, I had my period every month, spot on. If anything, I was a couple days early or a couple days late, but majority of the time my period came every 28 days. My period was extremely regular. Do you have any tips or advice? Yes. My biggest tip would be do your research. I shared on my IVF video that I did tons and tons of research. I I did most of my research on YouTube. I watched so many different women, so many different families on their journey with IVF, and everybody has their own story. So it was very beneficial watching a whole bunch of different families and seeing how their journey went, how their story unfolded, and just different things that they encountered and things that they did with their cycles. It was so helpful. I had to do a IVF injection class. And by the time that I did that class was solely for injections, right? So to teach us about the injection, how to administer the injections and whatnot. And I felt like I knew 99% of that. The class was still very, very informative, but I feel like I knew so much coming into that class. So do your research, be your own advocate. Definitely know what you're doing or getting yourself into beforehand. So be prepared. Were you scared of the needles? Yes, I was. I'm not the kind of person that's usually scared of needles, like getting shots, going to do blood draws. I have a lot of tattoos, so I feel like I'm pretty good with needles. But the fact that I was going to have to administrate these injections myself terrified me. I did not think I could do it. I did not think I was strong enough, and I'm somewhat of a control freak. So when it comes down to injecting myself with something, I felt like I was gonna have to do it so that I had that control over the whole situation. I know Rudy had always said that he would do it for me if I needed it, and I was very like, okay, but I'd rather not, just because, like I said, I'm somewhat of a control freak. At the end of the day, I did need him to do some of the injections, and it was so helpful. But once you start doing the injections, you come to find, at least for myself personally, it was not bad at all. They did not hurt most of the times. I think it was one of them, I can't remember which injection it was. It was the PM one. I can't remember what it was called. If you watched my previous IVF journey video, I know I mentioned all the names there. So that one kind of stung, but more so it was the liquid, not the needle itself. The needles were very thin. The only needle that I would say maybe should scare you is the progesterone and oil needle. That needle is thicker and much longer, but at the end of the day, it didn't bother me either. I used to use a heating pad to heat up my bum, whichever section or whichever side I was going to be getting the shot at, and I would leave it there for a few minutes prior, and then Rudy would do the progesterone and oil injection, and I wouldn't really feel it. The only sucky part is you do get a little sensitive with all these injections that you're constantly getting day after day after day. And the hormone injections that I had on my belly during our first cycle did leave a lot of bruising. Are you planning for a second IVF baby? I had a couple questions similar to this. I also had like, would you try naturally? So I know somebody even commented this on my previous video as well, and I answered it there. But I think what the game plan would be is see if we would conceive naturally whenever we decide to try for another baby. Right now, Lucy's too young, in my opinion, for me to even consider having another baby. I'm more than happy just having her. But I know Rudy would like to expand our family eventually. So when we do decide to do so, I think maybe I would come off of my birth control and maybe we can try. And once we're fully committed into conceiving, and if we're not pregnant naturally by then, I would more than happy do IVF again. IVF gave us Lucy, so I'm not scared of it. The only sucky part is obviously it costs money, and the biggest chunk of change would be for the medications. But at the end of the day, I would definitely do IVF again. Totally not opposed to it. How many embryos do you have left, and do you know the genders? As of right now, we have a total of 6 embryos frozen. We did 2 transfers already, which the first one was a fail, the second one was Lucy. So we had originally 8 total, and we currently have 6 frozen at a long-term facility. And no, we do not know the genders of the embryos because we did not do the PGS testing. We were able to find out Lucy's, the gender of Lucy when I was pregnant with her very early on, because I did do a genetic blood test. And I believe I was about 11 weeks pregnant when we got the results, and we found out that she was a girl. The reason why we did not do the PGS testing on our embryos was because, and I spoke about this on my previous video as well, that's why I would really recommend watching that video before watching this one. He was not 100% for PGS testing, only because the percentage wasn't high enough in his book. He said that he wasn't sure whether PGS testing actually interfered with the embryo, causing them to not be as healthy as they once was because of the needle going inside to do a biopsy. So also because Rudy and I were both young and we're both healthy and we had no reasons as to why we couldn't get pregnant, and my stemming went really well and the way that my embryos were growing looked amazing, so he was not for it and we decided to take his word for it. Okay, somebody asked, why didn't we transfer more than one embryo to ensure that I would have ended up pregnant? That was because I was terrified in conceiving more than one baby. I did not want to have twins. And also at my clinic, my doctor said that they don't do more than one embryo transfers, only because they are trying to think of the woman and have a safe pregnancy for her. It ends up being a higher risk pregnancy, and he said that the only reason we would even consider doing more than one embryo transferred would be if we did multiple transfers and I still didn't end up getting pregnant. And he said every single time he transferred more than one embryo, the woman ended up conceiving twins. So I definitely didn't want to be one of them, and that's only because I don't think I could personally do twins. I think one baby is already challenging enough. So any mom that carried more than one baby, you go girl. You have so much more strength than I do. How did your body react to the hormone medications? My body reacted very, very well. When we were doing my hormone medications for the stemming, my follicles reacted very well. My follicles were even measuring a day ahead, which was fantastic. I heard a lot of people say like horror stories, how you can have a whole bunch of like different reactions and whatnot. And I didn't. I had a very, very smooth cycle. I was very lucky, and even the medications that I was taking post transfers to, you know, tell my body that I was conceiving, I did so good on those as well. I feel like my skin was thriving. I would typically get, you know, a blemish here and there, but while I was on those medications, and then of course with our second transfer, and I ended up getting pregnant with Lucy, my skin was thriving. Like my skin was doing so great. I had no blemishes. My skin was glowing. So I really enjoyed being on those medications. Did the injections hurt, and how many injections did you take? The injections didn't hurt. I think I might have answered something similar to this earlier, but the injections did not hurt. There was one of the injections that I said earlier, it did sting a bit, which of course is the medication, not necessarily the needle. The needles are so thin and you just, you know, stab yourself with it real quick and you don't feel a thing. It was only the medication that kind of stung for a bit because you can feel it, you know, being administered into your belly. The progression oil needle stung a bit, but as I said, also I used a little heating pad a few minutes before the injection, and it would really warm up the area. And because progression oil is an oil injection, so that also helped with the medication go in, and like I massage it afterwards. So long story short, it did not hurt. Overall, the needles do irritate you after some time, and your skin starts to get a little irritated. You need to give yourself a little bit of TLC and do warm compresses. I feel like that always helped. I would do baths because I was doing a lot of TLC for myself during the whole process, and that helped me a lot. How many injections did I get? I remember at one point I had even shared this, I want to say on Instagram. Don't know if I might be able to find it, but I believe I can't find it, but I know I definitely did more than 50 injections. I want to say it was around 80 something. If I'm remembering correctly, it was almost 90, about like 87 or so, but definitely over. I'm just spitting out all these numbers, but I believe I did over 80 injections in total, and that's not even including all of the blood work that I had to have done throughout the entire process. Because during my first IVF cycle, every time I would go in for an appointment, which was every other day, after day 5 of stemming, I had to go do blood work as well. And I don't think I shared that on my previous video. Every time I had appointments, I always had to go get blood work because they wanted to check the levels of my estrogen and progesterone, and they wanted to make sure the numbers were looking good in order to proceed with medications and the transfer. So all in all, I did do over 80 injections and a lot of blood work. Last question, and it is, what do you wish somebody told you before you started IVF? I don't know if there is something I wish somebody told me, because as I said, I did a lot of research, so I did know a lot beforehand. I feel like I mentally prepared myself. The only thing I wish I somewhat had was more people who did IVF in my life. Just as we were getting started with IVF, I felt alone. I felt like IVF was not very common. Shortly after we began our cycle, I was getting more deep in Instagram, looking up IVF warriors, IVF journey, and I found so many infertility accounts, IVF accounts, different women who share their stories, accounts that share multiple women's stories, and I finally was feeling like I wasn't the only one feeling the way I was feeling. I wish that people would normalize IVF. I wish people would talk more about it, and that it wouldn't be so taboo, and that it would be more normal and more talked of and more heard of. I don't know, like I said, starting it all, I felt like I was alone. I was in a bubble that not many people knew of, not a lot of people. I just felt alone, and it is very sucky to feel that way when you're dealing with something that is so, it's a big thing. I just wish I had more people that actually knew what I was feeling, a lot more people that could relate to me and I could relate to them. That does it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if there's any other questions that you may have that I did not answer in this video, just go ahead and leave it on the comments down below and I will answer them. Thank you so much again for tuning in into this video. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.